Hello and welcome back to the Five Factors Podcast. We're so happy to see you here and have you listening to us and participating with us. I am Tal Prince here with everyone's favorite Cupid, Matt Adair. Matt, how are you?
That was almost too easy. I mean, it's a couple days in front of Valentine's. I can assure you that I am fully clothed. I am not shirtless wearing a diaper. Tal, it's good to have you back after a couple of episodes. You were away doing speaking engagements, just being this big, fancy hot shot in the counseling world. So it's good to have you back.
Well, it's nice to be a hot shot and it's nice to be back. But I don't know. I'm not asking for verification, but you could still be wearing a diaper.
I am not, and you will not get any notification. This is the family-friendly show, especially on YouTube, where I'm waving at everybody right now, and they can see me.
Yes, but still, no verification, and none,
Yes.
None required. I mean, if that's what that's what you choose to do, man. So here we
do
go.
not choose.
Well, and thank
I
you.
choose not.
So it comes down to wear or not to wear the diaper right now, currently in your life.
Yeah, give me another 40 years, and it may be a different situation.
That's
But
what I'm saying.
I'm doing okay today.
It reminds me of the old Saturday Night Live bit. Oops, I crapped my pants.
Yes.
The adult diapers. That was fantastic.
Classic.
But so we're not talking about diapers today for the rest of the episode, though we just had a really pleasant conversation about them. We're here to talk about today what we're calling secret number 10, a simple way to lose fat and live longer. And I don't know anybody better to talk to in my world about this than Matt. So we're looking to help leaders improve physical health. We're at this time now, right, that the New Year's resolutions that a lot of you kind of go for, you probably have crashed and burned on some of those. And so this is what we're here to talk about today, to kind of get you back on the horse in terms of physical exercise. And this is something that Matt knows a lot about and is really important to Matt. So Matt, why is this such a big deal to you?
Well, beyond why it's a big deal to me, I mean, we could have conversations and have touched on my growing up as the Husky kid. But I think beyond that, when we talk about the five factors, really, I think what we talk about is if you're going to lead well, if you're going to lead at the highest level for the longest time, then you have to pay attention to your physical health. In addition to these other areas we talk about, like you have to dial in and focus on just how healthy you're going to be physically. Do you have the strength and endurance to get through any given day? Do you have the strength and endurance to continue the work that God has given you for as long as you possibly can?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely right. So, and that's an important factor for us both. And I can tell you, after I lectured Friday for 6 hours.
It's a long time.
That's a long time. Now, it was harder on my listeners than me, I'm certain. But I bear the physical impact of that. They bear the emotional scars.
There you go.
But I have the physical impact of that. And had I not been keeping some type of exercise regimen, some type of physical health, there's not a way in the world I could have done anything near of what I did over the past couple of weeks in terms of my speaking engagements. Just no way. So it is really important. And you see how physical health locks into vocational health. We got to have them both. So what is, we're going to talk about a very simple way. Exercise today. So we're not talking about joining a gym. We're not talking about, buying a Nautilus system or whatever infomercial you're currently watching. What is this secret exercise, Matt?
Well, it really comes down to something very simple. It's something that all of us do, and that is it's walking. And when you even think about the way in which the body is designed, like our body isn't necessarily designed to do heavy squats, but we do them anyway. At least a lot of us do them. But all of us, we do walk, and we haven't achieved the stage of human development that we see in the movie WALL-E, where we're just kind of in these floating chairs, kind of taking us everywhere. So we all walk, but even just in terms of biomechanically, like walking is the number one form of exercise that the human body's designed for. And you go all the way back to Hippocrates, our good old buddy Hippocrates, the father of Western medicine. And, he said that walking is the best medicine. There are a ton of benefits to it. And so many as I started getting into the research, because look, if you had told me 10 years ago, you know what you need to do? You need to walk a lot. And that needs to really be the foundation for your movement in terms of not just exercise, not just lifting heavy things, not just getting your heart rate up, but really laying a foundation of walking. I don't know if that I'd believe you, but I think looking at the research, investing in it myself, it's almost too good to be true. The benefits that come simply by walking around. We're not talking speed walking, okay? We're not talking about turning this into Olympic sport. There doesn't necessarily have to be a lot of hip action here.
A very odd looking Olympic sport.
Yeah. So, but I mean, what we've heard is that if you want to be in shape when it comes to exercise, you need to get your heart rate up and you need to lift heavy things. And those are both really, really helpful. And from an exercise standpoint, if we can differentiate between exercise and movement, those two things, lifting heavy things, getting your heart rate up, those are helpful when it comes to exercise. But we often miss the importance of movement. So you have a lot of people that go and do CrossFit, or they just go to the gym, or they take a dance class, they go to yoga, and they do exercise, but then they don't move the rest of the day. Right. They sit in a chair and they lose some of the benefits that come from this very simple way of us simply moving around, the way God created us to move as human beings, and they miss the benefits of that. So the results are that there's a small percentage of people that achieve optimal health, and an even smaller percentage of those people who maintain optimal health. And so I'm not trying to say if, I'm 42, I've given up on trying to have the health of a 22-year-old. And when I'm 62, I don't have the expectation that I'm going to be as healthy as I will be now. Aging happens, okay? And so wherever you are, whatever age you're in, whatever age you are, whatever life stage you're in, all we're saying is that it's not easy to achieve optimal health, and it's really not easy to maintain it given the way that we tend to approach exercise. So most people are walking around when it comes to exercise and movement as either chronic underusers, and then there are a handful of people that are chronic overusers. And I was guilty as charged of doing this, of being guilty of kind of chronic cardio. That could be jogging, that could be high intensity aerobic type of things, but you know that your knees are shot, your hips are bad, your hip flexors are blown out, your ankles are really torn up, all those things are happening. And when that begins to happen, I mean, how are you going to be able to achieve and maintain what you want to achieve and maintain? So I find that you do have people who are the proverbial couch potatoes, and maybe that's you and you're listening to this, and you're not happy with where you are, but I'm also just kind of giving fair warning, and even maybe giving you a different path of thinking about this. If you like to work out, you like to train, or you're trying to, out of just sheer terror, trying to fight back the hands of time, we're trying to give you another way of thinking about this. So lots of exercise options out there, but I want to encourage you to lay a foundation of movement and encourage you to walk a lot. Walk as often as you can. So that's kind of what we're talking about today.
Yeah, and it's something that I try and get every client that comes into my office to do. Most of my clients are coming in because they've got some type of mental issue, some type of anxiety, some type of thing going on, or, really at the end of the day, I'm dealing with a lot of addictive behavior. And so one of the things that I'm trying to get everybody to do is, and I don't necessarily really care how you do it, but I do need your heart rate up 30 minutes, 30 minutes a day, or 30 minutes 3 times a week. It's not join a gym. It's not buy equipment. It's get a dog at most and take the dog for a walk. It's get out and move. But a lot of us, my job in particular, I'm hour after hour, I'm sitting with a client.
Yeah.
And so we are, a lot of us, in very sedentary careers, where it does make it a challenge to get up and move as much as we would like to. But it's going to be important for us to lay that foundation down so that we can start doing that and make that a priority. And there's a lot of benefits, and we'll get into that. So what are some of the benefits that come immediately to your mind of just taking a 30-minute walk?
Well, I think, first off, I think you bring in, just from from the standpoint of mental health, and as we talking about being able to be resilient, that there's something about getting outside. And some of us live in, this is the winter, and in parts of us that's really difficult because just the temperature, and we're not, looking to layer up 10 layers deep and to get outside and walk. But I think when we're able to, and as the weather allows and things allow, I mean, there's a real mental benefit from getting out and being able to quote unquote clear your head. And I found that to be very powerful, because I probably started walking consistently in 2013. And that was really when I started doing that. So I think that there are very real benefits from just walking around. It gives you time to get out of the space that you're in, and you're outside and in the fresh air. And I think there's just some very real mental benefits to it. But I really want to focus on three particular physical benefits that come from just walking. Okay. And again, guys, I'm just going to say, hold on, just walking. I'm talking about, I mean, you're not, there are things that we'll talk about here later on in terms of like, you can get your heart rate up significantly. Like you can try to go for that, but I'm just talking, even just a leisurely walk with your spouse, with your kids, with your dog, doing those things. Here are three benefits, and this isn't just anecdotal. This is research-based, okay? So here's the first one. The first benefit is when you walk, you lose body fat. So there was a Canadian study that was done with a group of women who walked for an hour a day. And walking an hour a day for 14 weeks, at the end of 14 weeks, that on average, those women had decreased their belly fat by 20%, okay? No change in diet. They were eating the same thing. They were just walking for an hour a day. And so they lost a fifth of their belly fat on average by doing that. And so when we talk about a simple way to lose fat, okay, this is what we're talking about. We're talking about just this one study showed that this is possible just by walking. So some of us who are trying to, lose 5-10 pounds or something like that, and especially I'm thinking for men where we carry a lot of it around our midsection, then this is a really powerful way for us to do that in a way that, again, doesn't require us to go to the gym and put ourselves through hell. I mean, one of the things that was interesting to me on our last episode with Pastor Jason Cook, as a former athlete, he said, after all those years of training and lifting weights and running, I didn't want to do any of it anymore. And some of us, as we get older, that's where we are. So it's like, just do this, just go and walk. So that's one physical benefit, is the loss of body fat. Here's a second benefit, okay? Increased average life expectancy. You want to live longer? You should walk. There was a study done, two studies I'll tell you about. One was done by the Public Library of Science and Medicine, okay? I don't know those guys on a personal basis, but there you go. The Public Library of Science and Medicine, they did a study where if people who walked 11 minutes a day, not even 30, 11 minutes a day on average, increased their life expectancy by 2 years. So you took that group, that control group, so here's the average life expectancy, and here's this other group, and they're living 2 years longer, and the only difference is they were walking 11 minutes a day, okay? How about this one from the University of Sydney? People who walked for 1 hour reduced the risk of early death by 14%. All those factors physically that cause people to die earlier than they should. And look, guys, before you just go, Jesus juking me and go, our time is in the hands of God. Yeah, I totally get that, okay? And we're just talking on average. So we're talking about being responsible. And so this one study said people who walk an hour a day reduce their risk of early death by 14%. Now, I just don't want you to think about that for yourself. I want you to think about that for your spouse, for your kids, if you have grandkids, for grandkids, the people who care about you and love, okay? But it's not just increasing average life expectancy. The third benefit is increasing the quality of your life. So when you age, what is aging as you get older are your cells. So your cells begin to age. It isn't just, your bones, all those things. They're all made up of cells. And so you're experiencing cellular aging. And so what this does is this increases the stress that you feel. It increases your risk of depression. It increases your risk of blood sugar disorders. And by walking, you are strengthening the connections that you have between cells. And so that's going to reduce your stress level. It's going to reduce your risk of depression. It's why Tal is sending out clients who are struggling with depression, say, go take a walk. It's going to reduce our risk of
Yep.
blood sugar disorders like diabetes and things like that. And so it's going to increase your energy just by walking, y'all. We said, here's the leadership tip, right? Here's the secret. If you want a simple way to lose fat and live longer, to increase the quality of your life, just go and walk. That's what we're talking about here.
Yeah, it is astonishing. It's kind of continually astonishing to me how hard it is to get somebody to take this step. No pun intended. Just to like, okay, so look, we need you to move. We need movement. But if you're dealing with somebody who's battling clinical depression, the last thing they want to do is get out of bed for any reason whatsoever. They just want to sit. They just want to lay down. They just want to go to sleep. It's just so hard to get them to move. Also, somebody with anxiety. If you're somebody that struggles with anxiety, or even to the extreme of having panic attacks, if that's you, when that starts to hit, one of the best things I can ever tell you is if you start to feel that rumbling of anxiety, you start to feel your heart rate going up, your blood pressure going up, and you're not doing anything. You're activated, and the anxiety is activated. The best thing you can do is get up and move.
Yeah.
Get up and take a walk. Why? Because you're getting more afraid because your brain is noticing, hey, wait a minute, the heart rate's up here, blood pressure's up here, pulse is up. I don't see a threat. Holy crap, maybe we're having a heart attack. This is what happens to everybody having an anxiety attack, is it mirrors cardiac arrest. And so we think, holy crap, I'm having a heart attack. More people with panic attacks show up in the emergency room believing they're having a heart attack. And then they find out that you're having an anxiety attack. It's just high anxiety. But when that anxiety hits, if you start walking, your brain then settles into, oh yeah, our heart rate's up because we're exercising, we're up, we're moving, we're walking. Yeah, our blood pressure should be up. Yeah, our pulse should be up. So that's really helpful. But for depression, it also helps because you're releasing endorphins in the brain. You're altering the neurochemistry of the brain. And that's really, really critical to our mental health, our physical, mental, and emotional well-being. So we need those neurochemicals going. We need the endorphins. We need the dopamine. We need the serotonin. We need the oxytocin. We need these things flowing. Walking produces all of that. Yeah. And so it's really, really helpful.
Yeah, and again, I think y'all could see implicitly some of the benefits here as well for your relational health, because I know for me that I'm sometimes, sometimes I am having client calls while I'm walking. There are times in which I'll be, listening to something, using it as an opportunity to learn. There are times in which I'm wrestling things out, and so I don't want to bring the emotional weight of that home. I don't need to bring that into a session with a client. I don't need to bring that into the leadership of my church. So, I'm working that out there. So it has a benefit relationally, and it has benefit spiritually. For some of us who really struggle, maybe to sit down and have a quiet time with God, this is a way, I think, for us to have conversations with God, to use this as an opportunity to take in the scriptures, the gift of audio that's available to us. If we have a smartphone and a set of headphones and the Bible app, we're good. And then to be able to use that as an opportunity to pray as well. So there's a holistic nature of benefits that come, just from walking. And I think that, Tal, when you were talking about that, just like, I just want you to get up and move. It feels to me a little bit sometimes, and this is, I want to be honest about the challenges of something like this. It feels a little bit like people will tell you, hey, if you're driving a long distance and you get tired, you should stop. Like, you should pull the car over, get out, walk around the car 3 times, do a set of push-ups, do something, and just to reset the clock a little bit. But no, we just tend to plow through, and we're really groggy, and probably shouldn't be driving at that point in time. And we basically are a weapon on the road. But I think it's a little bit like that too. I think for some of us, like, we hear that, hey, you know what? If I'm dealing with head trash today, what do I need to do? Give myself permission to get outside and walk around for a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I will do it. It's not uncommon for me, particularly if I have a depressed client or a really anxious client. It's not uncommon for me to take that session outside.
Yeah. Now, when
Hey,
you do
let's
that, are you just sitting outside, out back, or taking them on a walk?
no, we'll take a walk.
Yeah.
I want them moving. If they're if trying not to use the big fancy words. But if they've got no energy and they're sitting there and, they're staring at the ground, they're not really responding to any questions other than maybe a shoulder shrug or a heavy sigh, we're going to get up and move.
Yeah.
Hey, let's go take a walk. Let's just get up and go take a walk a little bit. Takes probably about 6-7 minutes. And they start jammering. They won't, then they start talking.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of benefits, for us personally, also relationally. You mentioned walking with your spouse, walking with your kids. Take the kids out for a walk, take your spouse out for a walk. And it's fine to be completely and totally silent on the walk too, for a part of the time. But I'm going to promise you, you're going to start talking.
Yeah, I remember Eugene Peterson talking about one of the things that he and his wife did consistently on their Sabbath was they would leave kind of early to mid morning, and they would go and hike. And they had agreed that we aren't going to say anything. We're just going to walk. We're going to observe, and then we're going to talk about what we saw afterwards. They do this for hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, and then do that. So yeah, I mean, I think just kind of working that out. But it's easy, especially if you got little kids and strollers and just taking them on a walk. Again, we're not talking about some athletic event here. We're just simply talking about getting out and moving around. So it's got that benefit. So let's really break this down in terms of wherever you are and how you can incorporate this. And the way that I would say it is at least 3 times a week. And I do this any day that I am not lifting weights, any day that I'm not doing maybe some more intense cardio work, then my goal is to get in 10,000 steps. The science isn't completely clear on this, but I don't think you're going to go wrong on saying, let's start there with about 10,000 steps. You keep hearing that it's really beneficial. So let's start there. And the biggest thing that I tell people is you got a couple options here. You can go knock that out in one fell swoop. You can go knock that out, take an hour or so, maybe a little bit more to walk that. Or you can break it up over the day. I mean, it's like 10,000 steps in a day, not at a time. And so you can do that in a couple different ways. You can do that on breaks, in between meetings, in between projects. Walk up and down your street, walk around your neighborhood. You can take phone calls doing it this way. Again, this is what I do with clients. I try to be conscientious of windy days and things like that. But I'll take a lot of calls when I'm outside. I'm locked in. I'm focused. Because all I'm doing is walking, but it helps me, and I've got a good enough cardiovascular capacity because where I end up going is a neighborhood that's got a lot of hills, and I don't sound like I'm about to die. But you can do that on a phone call. Do that, and just again taking meetings face to face. I haven't done this a lot yet. I like the idea though. Of just getting out and walking around. If somebody on your team, on your staff. I know Steve Jobs did this a lot. This is one of the things that he just did when he was at Apple, is that he would just basically go, let's just go take a walk. And I think there's something almost like eating that it allows you to be doing something else. And maybe drops the anxiety level in those meetings, maybe relaxes everybody a little bit in that. And I also think
it makes it less formal. It makes it far less formal. And really there is a general just intimacy that comes from being outside with somebody. And in relationship, taking a walk feels less formal, feels far more relational than sitting in your office across a desk. So it is a great management tool, is to have meetings and take a walk.
Yeah. And for some of you who are in the big mega churches, giga churches, you can just walk the halls of your big fancy building and you can just do it there, and you don't have to get outside. But, I love outside and that option as well.
Or your multi-purpose facility.
That's exactly right. And you probably have, this wonderful, basically it's like just a municipal park that's on your facility, and you have that to walk around too. Also, I think using this for personal development, a lot of us are trying to find times to learn. And so whether it's a podcast, maybe you're walking around right now listening to this podcast and you're like, look, I'm already crushing this. I already know this secret, fellas.
I own this.
or whether it's listening to audiobooks, anything like that. I think using it for personal development is helpful as well. So, again, 10,000 steps, make that your goal. Do it at one time, break it up throughout the day. Don't feel like you got to do 10,000 steps every day if you're going to the gym as well. But if you want to, go for it. I mean, you're not doing significant damage to yourself by walking in ways that you are by lifting weights, doing more high intensity cardio type work.
Yeah. So let's break it down. What is at stake? What's the big deal here? What's at stake?
Yeah, I think the reason why we're taking time to talk about this, and this is one of those that when we do surveys, it doesn't always, kind of pop to the top of the list like we will with leadership development. But guess what? You're not going to be developing leaders if you don't take care of yourself physically. And the reason is you're either going to take years off of your ministry life. You're not going to be able to continue to lead. You're not going to continue to be in those roles because you're not physically healthy. And so there's the longevity piece of it, and there's also just the day-to-day piece of it. If you're not taking care of yourself physically, if you're not investing in your physical health, then you're not going to make the most out of your day. If you're not sleeping well, you're not eating well, you're not moving around enough, then you're going to find times in which in your day that you may put it down on your schedule like you're at work, but you're not really working. And again, that's what we're trying to do here is we're trying to say, pay attention to your physical health, build the strength and endurance you need so that you can lead well in the places where God's put you. That's what's at stake.
Yeah, and so we have a resource for you. If you will go to 5factors.net/overview. Matt's prepared a resource for you there on walking and just really kind of how to break this down and get started. You want to tell people about that resource?
Yeah, I mean, really, this is just kind of the big picture of the entire 5 factors. The thing that I think we're trying to do is we keep having more and more people that are jumping in and listening to the podcast is we want to not only tell you, hey, go back to the first 5-6 episodes of the podcast, and we'll talk more about these, but we did try to create this resource that would just go, hey, if you want to know what it takes to lead well for a long time, focus on this. And we've just found time and time again that leaders don't invest in themselves. They don't think they can. They probably think they should, but they don't think they can. And what we're saying is we're giving you permission to say, yes, if I want to help other people, I need to help myself first. And so you grab that resource. We'll give you an overview of the 5 factors, break it down into some different components. And then there's a real simple assessment for you to kind of take stock of where you are right now. And I think it's just a good way for you to just kind of check the dials and see where you are, wherever it is and whatever time and place you are listening to this.
Yeah, and because we are dealing with leaders in this podcast, I don't know, maybe it's possible that you find yourself a kind of highly type A personality. And very often we find a new toy, we find a new concept, a new idea, and we over freaking do it. Okay. So this doesn't mean, hey, listen, so start taking a walk and by the end of this week, we want you running half marathons.
No.
A lot of you are going to try this. I know this. A lot of you are going to just want to kind of overdo this because a lot of us also as type A personalities are also kind of addictive personalities. And so we think if a little bit is good, a lot is better.
Right.
So this is just walking. All right. This is just walking, 10,000 steps a day. This is not over the top. This is not, clear your calendar and, go walk for, 2 hours and then start running. It's not that. Yeah. It's just walking. It's really simple. It's really easy and it's really powerful and effective, both for your relationships, your relationship with your kids, relationship with your spouse, relationship with yourself, your spirituality, your relationship to God, your relationship with those you're leading. It can be really, really helpful in all those areas. So Matt, you want to review this for us or you got anything else?
I mean, just breaking it down, guys. I mean, the secret that we're passing along, and we say this every time, and we say the leadership secrets. I mean, again, usually this is stuff that we already know, but it's stuff that's just out of arm's reach. It's the things that we tend to forget easily. And so the secret we want to pass along is that, if you move more, then you will lead longer and you'll lead better. And so if you want to be a better leader, go and walk. It's that simple. So that's really what I want to make sure that we're clear on. Tal?
All right, man, that's fantastic. So we want you to invite you to follow us on Twitter if you are in that atmosphere. It's either at Matt Adair or at Tal Prince. We want you to, man, give us some feedback. Give us some feedback. Rate the podcast, review the podcast, let your friends know about the podcast, and we will look forward to interacting with you there. As we go. So there it is. You've now heard the leadership secret from this podcast. Secret number 10: take a walk. So what better thing for you to do now than to go take a walk? That's what Matt and I are going to do. We're going to go take a walk, and we'll see you next week on episode number 26 of the Five Factors podcast. So I am Tal Prince, and along with Matt Adair, we will see you again next week.